Greetings everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Captain Rye and today's YouTube video is a subscriber submitted replay from Stormsurgealpha. Yes, we've seen Stormsurge before. This time, this replay is him in his earnest Gaede. And yes, I know I probably just butchered that name. Oh well, we'll go on without it. The map is Fault Line, one of the oldest maps in this game, and the battle mode is Domination. And there's not that many destroyers per team. In fact, there are only 2 destroyers on Storm's team, and only 1 on the enemy team. But I do believe this is a Tier 7 matchup, and the enemy team has a Tier 7 carrier. The German destroyers have reasonable anti-aircraft, but anytime you're in a destroyer and you're spotted by an aircraft carrier, the world basically comes to a screeching halt as you try desperately to run away to get those planes to stop pursuing you so that you can drop back into your most precious of commodities, concealment. I played the Earnest here quite a bit several months ago when it first came out, and I actually kind of liked it as far as a Tier 6 destroyer goes. Of all of the Tier 6 destroyers that I had played at the time, which included the Mitsuki and this, I have to say that this was far more entertaining. And it's entertaining because of the features that it has. It's a pretty quick little boat, but the detectability range is kind of large. Definitely not a Japanese destroyer. The torpedo range is reasonable, and if you have a 15-point captain, you can easily get the concealment expert and the torpedo reload expert among your other skills, such as Last Stand. And you can make this ship work out really, really well. With that concealment expert, you can get the detection range just right around your torpedo range. And that's kind of one of those interesting things about the German destroyers. You start out with these really short, obnoxiously short torpedo ranges that you basically have to do suicide battles with. And every single tier you go up, they extend their range by half a kilometer. Now, Stormsurge, he's used the islands for cover, and he's got his torpedoes out at that enemy battleship. And that enemy battleship is not paying attention. And that is going to cost him. The enemy team secures a first blood by taking out one of their destroyers. But Storm here repays that first blood by taking out their battleship. Now, Storm is doing exactly what you should be doing in this kind of ship. Specifically, because of the detection range and because of the gun bloom that results from firing your guns, he's not actually using his guns. He's using his torpedoes. More importantly, he's being a sneaky little boat, and he's using these islands for cover. The problem with using islands for cover like this to lay ambush tactics is that you have the issue of not being able to spot for your team. And you do need that spotting in order to see what's coming. Because right now, where he's at, he's in a position that if somebody comes around the side of that island where his torpedo lead indicator is, the moment they do that, he's going to be spotted. Now, he is being incredibly smart about this, and he's not popping his smoke screen. This is something that I see a lot of inexperienced destroyers do. Even when they're not detected, they'll just sit out in the open like this, but they'll pop their smoke screen, which makes no sense. And it's not something that should be done. Now, he is detected because he is just inside of the detection range, of the ship that, yes, sure enough, came around the side of that island. So the enemy ship is shooting at him, and that's an incredibly bad situation to be in. But he's going to go ahead and motor on forward and get out of line of fire. Again, using that island for cover. And he manages to take out that ship as well with his torpedoes. That guy probably came around that corner, spotted a destroyer, and went, oh shit. And of course, as you can see there in the video, he was just starting to back up. Probably told his first officer to bring him his brown pants. Now, the teams are equal as far as ships go, but Storm's team has one cap. You'll notice, though, that the enemy is trying to cap B, and his team has been in the process of trying to cap C, but nobody's actually managed to secure either of those caps at this point. Storm has decided, instead of trying to cap, he's just going to sit up here and defend A. And right now, there's no, necessary pressure on the other caps that would warrant him heading down there. So I support the idea of sitting here and defending A, helping out those friendly ships as best you can, and sending as many of the enemy big guns, especially, to the bottom. Now, he's popped his smokescreen so that he can open up with his guns, because if he didn't, he'd be instantly detected, and probably detected by the ship that's at B. Even if he managed to kill these ships here, because of that gun bloom again, it would just be awful. Unfortunately, he can't get torpedoes away at this enemy battleship up here, and he can't do it for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason he can't do it, well, he's got a friendly battleship in his way. And given the speed of these torpedoes and their range, because this battleship is also turning away, they'd never reach him before this guy's dead. Now, smokescreen has worn off, and that's a big disadvantage to the German destroyers, as their smokescreens do not last long at all. And, of course, for whatever reason, the moment you are detected, every single person who is in gun range wants to shoot at you. It never fails. It happens when I'm in my Z52. It happens when I'm in my Ernest. It happens pretty much every time. When I'm in my Fletcher, nobody wants to shoot at the Fletcher. No, they all want to shoot at the German destroyers. Now, he's got an enemy cruiser up here who was shooting at him, but again, he's using the islands for cover. He was briefly detected there by the enemy aircraft carrier, with his aircraft flying over him. And because of the gun bloom, the aircraft and enemy ships are still able to detect him. And I can tell you, when you're in this situation, that 20-second is the longest 20 seconds of your life. The enemy team has lost even more ships, but they've now captured the other two cap points. So now the pressure is kind of on a bit to start taking out these ships, but more importantly, the pressure needs to be on Storm here to move into these other caps and start reclaiming them. Yes, they have a points lead for now, but an enemy team with two caps with as much time left, if they can just keep the scores equal, will eventually add up, and they will come back and they will win. So, Storm has decided that he's going to take the longer way around this island here, and he's again detected by aircraft as they come flying over him from that Hiryu. He gets his anti-aircraft on. Not much he's going to be able to do to Tier 7 aircraft with the destroyer AA on that particular destroyer. But the enemy CV doesn't seem particularly interested in dive bombing him, instead flying his planes all the way over him to the other side of that island. That decision is a little bit of a mistake on the aircraft carrier's part. Here you have a destroyer that's less than half health, and one solid dive bombing run could just end this guy. More importantly, not only could it end it, it could give the friendly Graf Spee up there the opportunity to absolutely finish him off without issue. And destroying those enemy destroyers should be a priority for pretty much any team. Of course, I say that, and I am a primary destroyer player right now. Please don't shoot me. Again, using the islands for cover, even though his detection radius is bloomed out there from firing his guns, because he's behind the islands, he's not detected. So he's going to use the islands for cover, and now he's going to finally motor his way into the B cap point to start taking advantage of, well, the lack of enemy players hanging around the B cap point. He decides to open up again, take shots at that Graf Spee, and because of the aircraft, he is detected again. But that's not going to last long, as those aircraft disappear behind another island on their way to bomb the friendly CV. The teams are still fairly equal, but the scores are in favor of Storm's team. Storm so far has managed to do 110,000 damage. And he's getting pretty close to getting that Kraken unleashed. And surprisingly enough, he hasn't yet earned a Confederate or a high caliber, in spite of doing that level of damage. I've had games where I've only done that damage in a tier 7 and somehow gotten them. It's kind of weird how those get rewarded. Now, the other advantage that the Gaede has is that it's also a very quick destroyer. Especially with speed boost and speed flags, it's a very, very fast destroyer and can be used to get into positions and get into those caps. And now you see here, he's got two Graf Spees heading in his direction. One who's behind him and one who's in front of him off to the side. He gets torpedoes away at the one that's behind him, and he is detected by aircraft. Now, that Graf Spee behind him, here's a question. I know you're busy in a fight with somebody, but this is where paying attention, pulling that camera back during your fights is important. Because see there, he just ate a torpedo, and he flooded to death. And that's Storm's 4th kill. If he'd pulled that gun camera back, instead of staying tunnel visioned and zoomed in, he could have probably noticed the torpedoes heading his direction and easily turned to avoid them. Graf Spee might not be the fastest ship, but it does have a decent rudder shift time, and it is more than capable of dodging a spread like that. Hell, you'll see me, just as a force of habit, do that constantly when I'm playing in a destroyer. I'll fire a salvo, I'll pull the gun camera back for 3 seconds, and then I'll zoom back in and fire another salvo. Every 3 seconds. It's a little disorientating if you're not aware of why I'm doing it. And I'm doing it simply because pulling that gun camera back gives me that wide field of view, and it lets me see things like torpedoes heading my direction with enough time, especially if they're spotted by airplanes, to react to them and turn and avoid getting hit. Or get my hand ready to go on the damage control, on the repairability. Storm's team is now clearly in the lead. The enemy team only has 4 ships left, and they only have 1 cap. Storm, however, has decided that he shouldn't even let the enemy team have 1 cap. Again, using this destroyer and its advantages, he's got the speed boost up, and he is just booking it across this map. So he's going to get into sea, and he's going to capture. Another key point to remember if you're in a destroyer, especially a sneaky destroyer, capping is as good XP as causing damage and sinking ships. For whatever reason, a lot of people get it into their head, especially when they're playing destroyers, or cruisers even, that the only way they're going to get those high XP numbers, be top of the team, is if they cause the most damage. I've seen people who've been complaining in chat that they've had, 160,000 damage game battles and battleships at tier 6. And yet, here I am in a destroyer who's only done maybe 40,000 damage, but I have 3 cap assists. and I've killed 1 destroyer. And that's why I'm top of the team for XP earned. Now, as Storm gets into the sea cap point and begins capping it, the enemy carrier has popped up, and he is headed in this direction. He is detected by friendly ships here, but Storm is now detecting him, and he's going to take the opportunity to open up with him. In this particular case, he's going to use his high explosive, not necessarily because he wants to set this guy on fire, but more because he wants to get the shots to actually do damage. And if he switched over to his armor piercing at this kind of angle, the shots would simply not penetrate that bow. So he fires off 1 set, and he's holding on to the 2nd set to make sure this guy doesn't turn away. And at this kind of angle, he could use his armor piercing, but it doesn't matter. That CV gets taken out with torpedoes before he can get any of his aircraft up and away. But the CV did manage to set him on fire and cause some damage. Well, enemy aircraft carrier is down. Friendly team still has 4 ships, including a destroyer. And our hero here, Storm, he's managed to secure 5 kills in his battle. And I believe he's managed to secure his high caliber by taking out that enemy aircraft carrier. Since there's nothing else, he's got his anti-aircraft up, and he's trying to shoot down those planes. Now, he pops his smokescreen, and I don't know if this was an accident or if it was intentional. But honestly, Storm, if you're watching, you didn't need to pop that smokescreen, and you didn't even need to pop your hydro. They don't detect aircraft if you were trying to shoot them down, and based on the minimap, all the enemy ships are far away from you. Victory for him and his team. He's managed to do 167,000 damage, 5 kills, Kraken Unleashed, and high caliber. 10,000 XP. This probably his first win of the day, and of course he's probably running some of those XP bonuses. But look how many torpedo hits he managed to get. That's a staggering number. A tier 6 destroyer and a tier 7 matchup. Top of the team for XP earned. There's no surprise there at all, with well over 2,000 base XP. In fact, he's almost 1,000 base XP higher than the next nearest guy on his team, which is just equally impressive. Anyway, folks, that's it for today's video. I hope these tips and video help you understand how to play some of these German destroyers, especially at mid-tier, a little bit better, and bring you a little more enjoyment out of that grind. If you like the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can like and follow me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and my channel, I encourage you to do so by visiting my Patreon, and I'll be adding new rewards and tiers here soon. If you'd like to send me a replay like this one, you can do so by sending it to my email. And if you feel adventurous, you can watch me play games on Twitch by following my Twitch channel. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.